So once you have your onions cut up, you put them into a big pan. So I'm going to add these. Woo, and I am starting to just weep a bit because onions have a lot of sulfur in them. That's what makes you cry. And now we want to add some olive oil to this. So we're going to bump up the heat here onto medium. Give this about, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And give that a nice stir. And we're going to cook these very slowly. Let that go. So before you came over, I have some cooking right here. So here they are, and you see now how much they have cooked down. And I want to add about 2 tablespoons of flour to the onions. So there's 2 tablespoons of flour. And let's just mix that around. Get that all mixed well. Why am I adding the flour? Well, because this is going to help with the filling, which is going to be a nice egg and cream filling. So really mix in that flour well. And you see how this is cooked way down. And they're smelling really, really sweet. So once you have it like that, turn off the gas and just put them into a pan. Or a bowl rather. Put them into a bowl. And now we want to allow this to cool down because we have to make a pastry crust. And for that, we want to have some flour. And here we have some unbleached all-purpose flour, 1 cup. And to that, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of cake flour. Cake flour is a low-protein flour. That means there isn't a lot of gluten. Gluten is what you need when you're making something that has to hold up, like bread dough or pizza dough, something like that. But when you want to have a nice tender crust, you don't want a lot of gluten. So I mix unbleached all-purpose with cake to give me a more tender crust. So there's a 1/2 cup of cake flour. Let me just turn my onions down now because they're really sizzling away. And with that, we want some salt and sugar. So here is a tablespoon of sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and that we mix together because now we have to add some butter to this. When you make a pastry dough, the secret word is freddo, cold. Everything should be cold when you're working with it. So I have butter in the freezer, and the reason I put it in the freezer is because I want it not to melt into that flour. So I get it frozen, and then when I have it to the point where I can still grate it and it's not hard as a rock, I bring it out. And you can see I've already started. You need 5 tablespoons of butter for this recipe, unsalted butter. And I get my cheese grater cold. My butter is frozen because if you didn't freeze it, it would be just too sticky. And what you want to achieve here are just little bits of flour mixed in with the, little bits of butter mixed in with the flour, but not so mixed in that you can't see it. For this amount of flour, you want about 3 to 4 tablespoons of ice water. Again, everything is cold. So beat that up, and that goes right in with your flour mixture. So I want this to be a soft ball. And once you have it together, don't overwork it, otherwise you'll be working too much gluten into the whole mixture. Once you have it in a rough state, then you want to put it in the refrigerator for about, a couple hours till it's cold, or at least until it's firmed up a little bit. Parchment paper is a baker's best friend. So let me get a little bit of flour here. I'm going to sprinkle just a bit of flour on my parchment paper. Put my dough, turn it over. Here's our second sheet of parchment paper. Now you need a rolling pin. Here's mine. And you begin rolling this dough out from the center, going out. I'm just going to lift that paper up for a minute. You see the butter? You see those little flecks of butter? That's what you want. You don't want this to be so uniform that you can't see that butter. And if you find as you're doing this that your dough is really getting soft, what you can do is just take this whole thing on a piece of, or on a cookie sheet rather, and put it in the refrigerator. Flip this right into your pan and then carefully pull the paper back. I say I like to shimmy the paper off. There. There's our lined shell. And now what you want to do is really give it some slack. Give it some slack. And then if you have extra, you just leave it over the top like that, pinching it. And then what I do is just kind of roll over it to even it off with the top of the pan. See? Then you can take the excess off, and what do you do with this little excess? You make yourself a little tart. All right, there is our shell. At this point, our oven is on at 375, folks, and now we need to put the onions in the base. Remember, they are cooled and ready to go. So now the onions go in. And you spread them out. Spread them out to fit the tart shell. They smell wonderful. Nice sweet onions. Some people like to use Vidalia onion for this. Vidalia onion isn't really an onion that you would find in Italy, but hey, we live in America, so that would be fine. So spread it out. And now we need to mix up eggs again. So here we have 3 eggs. We're going to pour this right over the top of those onions to make like a custard top. And when I asked Gaetano to make this, to grow these onions for me, this was the enticement. I'll make this tart for you. Here we have a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. That goes in. We want to whisk that up, or beat that up together so it's well blended. We pour this over the tart, just like that. And now what we want to do is grate up some cheese. So before I do that, I'm taking extra precaution. I want to put the tart shell on a bake sheet in case there are any spills. So you admire that while I grate up some cheese. And for that, we have some Asiago cheese. Love that cheese. You could use any cheese for this, but this is a nice, nutty, semi-hard cheese that comes from Asiago in the Veneto. So the cheese has the name of the town in which it is produced. And I actually visited Asiago not too long ago to see how this cheese was made. We need about 3/4 of a cup, and that looks like it's absolutely the right amount. So you put the cheese over the top, sprinkling it evenly. And now it's ready to go. I'm going to give that just a little bit of black pepper. So, torta di cipolle, all ready to go in the oven. 375 degrees for about 35 minutes or until it is nicely browned.